Welcome to using the new IRS Secure Access Portal to upload Forms 8821 and 2848. My name is John Shuey. I'll be your moderator. Today's host and speaker is Mr. Bill Nemeth, EA from Atlanta, Georgia. Bill is presently the president of Tax Doctors? Dr. Tat? No, who are you?
Tax Doctor.
Tax Audit Guardian, Tax Doctor. I don't know. Who are you? But Bill has been around a long time. He was previously a multi-unit franchisee of a national tax chain in the Atlanta area. His true love is a tie of his bride Mary, teaching, and of course representation work. So Bill is going to talk to us about this technology that I think many of us missed, that posts your POA, and at least half the time that CAF is taking these days, we're finding it super, super helpful in our office, and I'm really glad Bill is going to speak. There will be four polling questions. I'm not going to make Bill stop. It'll pop up on your screen. Just answer it and move on. I believe that you're going to be here for 50 minutes, but the IRS and NASBA do not. So I need you to answer 3 of the 4 polling questions. They don't need to be correct. I hope that they're correct, but they don't need to be. And you need to be logged in for 50 minutes. So, Bill, it's all yours, my man. We've been chatting so much, I forgot to start your program. So here is your program, if you can give it a moment, but it's all yours.
Okay. The first slide is yours, right? CE?
You're here.
Okay, here we are. Welcome. I encountered this a couple months ago, and I thought, hey, this is really cool, and mentioned it to a few people, and I got blank stares. So I thought, wouldn't it be nice to actually share my knowledge in this area? So that's kind of what I do for a living. I try to tell you some of the neat things that will make your life easier. So we're going to talk about the IRS Secure Access Portal, uploading the disclosure authorizations 8821 and 2848. And there is my background. That's in the slide, so you can go through it. The most impressive part of it is I am an MIT graduate, graduate degree in mechanical engineering. And I often comment that EAs are not very good marketers. Notice I have an MBA in marketing. So I think it's very important to be good in marketing because we actually are selling all the time, whether it's to our client or to the IRS. Here's a quick webinar today. We're going to talk about Secure Access Portal. We're going to talk about how to upload the disclosure authorizations of the various types. Going to give you a little bit of my personal processing on how long it's taking for me to do 8821s and 2848s. And then we're going to show you something that John knew about, I did not know about, and I got a CP2000 a couple of months ago that talked about, oh, would you like to communicate with us digitally? So that's kind of a preview of what is coming. A little bit of a glossary time. Wet signature. Handwritten signature in ink, blue ink is preferred, ballpoint or wet ink on a paper form. That's a wet signature. Electronic signature, the IRM 10.10.1 as of 12/3/19. The IRS accepts e-signatures, and it's one of those evolving things. The IRS continues to update the list of forms which may be signed electronically. So rather than give you a list today, if you want to find out, just go visit the IRM or Google it to see which ones are actually going to be accepted by the IRS. And as you'd expect, the e-signature scenarios with the IRS, they continue to evolve. So there is no definitive, it changes, it gets broader day by day. Okay, continuing with our glossary. Disclosure authorizations is what they call the 8821 and the 2848. And they can be uploaded in any of the following digital file types. PDFs, which is portable document format, very old technology, 1993, JPEGs or JPG, and GIFs. Why would you ever have a JPEG? Well, I did this the other day. Guy took a picture of an 8821 and sent it to me as an attachment to an email. It came through as a JPEG. And last night I uploaded it as a JPEG. Went through just fine. So that's why that GIF, if you're into it, is actually kind of the backbone technology for faxes. So you could actually upload it in that fashion as well. But the biggie is usually PDF or the JPEG. Okay, how can we submit disclosure authorizations? Well, we can fax it to the CAF unit, wet signature only. Memphis or Ogden is, and it turns out if you read the directions on the disclosure authorizations, they suggest if you're east of the Mississippi, you're going to use Memphis unless you're in Wisconsin. If you're in Wisconsin and everybody west, you use Ogden. If you're international, you use Philadelphia. But those are only guidelines. You can actually use Ogden if you choose to. I have been using Ogden since January because they stayed open longer and they were bigger than Memphis. Second way you can do it, and I did this last night. I'm in the Eastern time zone. I call the IRS at 9:55 in the evening because I use a purchasable service called Call ENQ. They have West Coast lines, so I called PPS, faxed them a disclosure authorization with a wet signature, and got up to 10 transcripts delivered to my mailbox, pulled them down, and actually figured out on a new client what his problem was. The assister automatically faxes the disclosure authorization to your appropriate CAF unit. I asked last night that they not do that because the prior night I had done the same thing, and the transcripts never showed up in my mailbox, but I presume they sent the CAF the unit. So I said, don't do it again. Let's not give them more work. The third way, which is the one we're going to focus on today, is we're going to upload via the IRS Secure Portal with either wet or electronic signatures. And you actually have to tell them what you're doing. We're going to go through some screenshots. So this is actually a hands-on for people that want to see how the technology works. And notice number 4, wet signature. A lot of you may be aware that during the start of the pandemic, they had shut off the fax machines for Ogden and for Memphis. I actually mailed in some 2848s and 8821s. And oh, by the way, they took 4 months to process, but they exactly went through. So that's kind of a summary of how you can get disclosure authorizations to the IRS. Here's an interesting comment on the IRS portal. We can upload digital images. The bad news, there's no processing improvement over faxing. It just goes into the queue along with the faxes. So it's not any faster, it's not any slower. But there is good news. There's a verification that the IRS CAF unit received the disclosure authorization. I work very late at night. If I'm faxing to the IRS, we know for a fact that the machines, when they get a fax, a normal fax, they print it out on a mechanical printer, which has been known to jam, have a power failure, run out of ink or whatever. And so if it runs out of ink at 3 in the morning, it just sits there and prints blank pages until somebody comes in at 8 or 9 o'clock and says, oh, gee, look at all this blank paper. So the neat thing about the disclosure authorization going through the secure portal, you can send that any hour of the day or night, and it's actually stored in digital format. Notice all of the different kinds of things you can do. If you have a physical fax machine, probably not the best use of your money anymore because a normal phone line is very, very expensive these days in the time of VoIP phones and all of that. I happen to use an eFax kind of thing. My eFax will take a PDF or a JPEG or a GIF. So to my eFax, it's just a file. But here's something interesting. Some of the smaller enrolled agents, sole proprietors, they do not have a physical fax. If they have to do a 2848, they go to their local UPS store or to Staples, and they actually fax to the IRS. Whereas with this, you don't need a fax machine. You can use software applications, a scanner or a camera to create that digital image, and it can be a wet or electronic signature. Very, very useful. So net, it gives you more flexibility. You don't have to be at your home station to upload it. Alrighty. Here's what you can do. You can upload the digital image. You can withdraw 8821s and 2848s via the secure portal. 2848 works fine for withdrawal. 8821 does not work. I actually did one of these 2 months ago. My client got this letter that said, your representative wants to withdraw his 8821. He's not authorized to do that. You have to do it. So that was a goofy one. So that was my experience as of May 20th. Here is my personal processing statistics. If we start from the bottom here, December 2020, and go up to the current time, you see in December, it was 60 to 70 days from when you got a fax disclosure authorization to a CAF unit. January, still 60 to 70. February, it averaged 33 days. March, 30 days. April, 25. My May submissions on a short sample size of 2 was 18. And I'm told now that some people have actually seen less than 15. So very, very good. Here is something rather interesting. Have the same average processing time independent of the method. Whether you faxed to the CAF unit, whether you called PPS, faxed it to them, and then had them send it over to the CAF unit, or via the secure portal, my statistics showed no difference whatsoever. So here's my commentary. It's nice that the IRS CAF unit receives the disclosure authorization and verifies it. And what happens is when you send it up, notify.irs.gov sends an email to the email you have on record with these services, but you don't know which disclosure authorization was accepted. It just says, congratulations, you've had a successful submission. Here is my commentary. Simple solution. Keep them in order if you're doing more than one. And when you get the emails in order, forward that email to yourself and add the taxpayer's name to the subject line. And that works very well. That's what I've been using. And I'm on a couple IRS conference calls every month. They thought that was pretty brilliant. So it is what it is. So this is what you get. This is a screenshot saying successful submission. It went to wgnemeth@aol.com. Dear William, we received your form submission. The form will be processed in the order it's received, and so on and so on. And so isn't that nice that they told me they got it? Notice the taxpayer information is not shown. It's just a generic kind of a notification. So here's what I do. I forward the email to myself and put the date, taxpayer's name, and what I sent up there. And that's what the screenshot looks like. So I said, okay, this is Tommy taxpayer. I did that on 5/31 of 2021, 8821. And then I can track when I have CAF authorization involved. So it works out pretty well. And so I have a whole bunch of emails to myself that I can look at. All I do is do a search for successful, and I can see where they all are. And then using third-party software, I can see when my CAF is active, and then I can go in and pull transcripts, do whatever I have to do. If you're going to do a upload, here's what you need for each disclosure authorization. You need a file image of each type of disclosure. What type of request are you going to submit, 2848 or an 8821? The reason you need all this, you have to answer questions. Whether it's a revocation or a withdrawal, you need the taxpayer's social, EIN, or ITIN, and you have to answer the question, did the taxpayer electronically sign the form in a remote location, yes or no? Yes requires information on how you verified his identity. Taxpayer, domestic address, international, or is he participating with a low-income tax clinic or a student tax clinic program? So that's what you need before you start uploading. And here's what the screenshots look like. We're going to upload a disclosure authorization. Each disclosure lists one taxpayer, and we're assuming right now you've got an e-services account. If you don't have an e-services account, please get one. You'll find it to be invaluable, and it's going to pay wonderful dividends overall. So here's what we do. Okay, we go to irs.gov, which we all know how to get to, select Tax Pros, and at that point, we then go down to, we scroll down, we see the select forms, submit forms 2848 and 8821 online. You click on the upload and submit and go to the next screen. And it says submit these forms online. Just for reference, you'll notice I have circled the current revision of the 2848 and the 8821 RPDFs. They're listed there for reference. Not that you use them, but that's why they're there. And notice it says log in to submit. So you log into your e-services account. And as I mentioned, these are blank forms up here if for any reason you needed the current revision. So you log into eServices, your username, and you go past that. We made this really granular. Enter your password, you check on your site phrase and your site image. I use IRS. Enter your password and you click submit. So far, so good. Okay, it comes back, asks you for your two-factor authentication. You put that in, click on continue. And notice it tells you the other times you have logged in the past, couple of months. And notice the fine print, report suspicious activity. They want to make sure you recognize all those logins. If for any reason you see a lot more activity than you've been doing, somebody has stolen your access to eServices, and you want to get in touch with the help desk immediately. We know that the IRS has been hacked in the past, and they're asking us to be a partner with them just to keep track of what's happening. So always check that to make sure it makes sense. Okay, here was my signed 8821 for upload. It was Tommy Taxpayer with a wonderful social 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Notice I'm doing the years or periods I'm doing back to 1998. That gives me an opportunity to check for first-time abatement opportunities, which I can do because 2001 is the oldest year that may qualify for a first-time abatement. We can then go 3 years in the future. We're in 2021 now. We go to 2024. So my standard date range that I'm using, 1998 to 2024 for normal people. And you say, why do you go that far back? Well, thus far in 3 years, I have found over $150,000 in free money doing first-time penalty abatement. So that's the reason. I can make money for my clients.
And save money.
And save money. Okay, these are screenshots. That's why when you see the PDFs, I printed them one slide per page so you could read it. Notice it says, what kind of request would you like to submit? This happens to be an 8821, and then we hit next. Did the taxpayer electronically sign the form in a remote location? No. In order to route your submission properly, please select one of the following for the taxpayer line 1. Does the taxpayer have a domestic address, international, or is he participating in a low-income tax clinic or another program? And then we start entering the data that we're going to need for this disclosure authorization. The social, you then have to browse wherever it is on your computer and attach that file, whether it's a PDF or a JPEG or whatever, and then click on the submit button. And you actually see here the name of the file you found. It comes back and says success. And an email was sent to your eServices email, whatever is on file. At this point, do you want to submit another form or do you want to exit? The early version of this, after you submitted one form, it logged you out for security purposes. Now it allows you to actually take another shot and upload more forms. So that is how easy it is. Here's again, I'm going to just repeat this. It's nice in that the IRS CAF unit received it and told you they received it. However, you don't know the disclosure authorization they accepted, so we use this little thing here. When you get that email from the notify at IRS, forward it to yourself and put in some detail. That way you know what it is. And that's what we did here again. And again, repetition, I just forwarded it to myself. I put in the taxpayer's name, the date, and the form that I submitted. Makes it very easy to track. And again, I repeated this one just because I thought it was pretty important that the time is improving and the same average processing time independent of method, whether you fax to the CAF unit, call up PPS and fax it to the PPS folks with a wet signature, or upload via the Secure Portal. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about the traditional AUR process. CP 2000 is, the automated underreporter unit. Here's what normally happens. AUR mails a CP2000, a review of unreported income. Taxpayer, let's assume, responds within the 10 to 30 days by mail. They then, or you call the AUR unit, they can't confirm they receive a correspondence, and they'll say, call back. Or you do the same thing by fax. They can't verify that they've had the fax. They can't tell you if it's ever been received, and they'll tell you want to check back in 2 weeks or a month. So really a frustrating kind of doing it. If in fact they don't get to it, a notice of deficiency is going to be issued about 60 days after that CP2000, and the taxpayer may have to petition tax court to make sure that they're only paying the correct amount of tax. So the whole thing today, if you will, is broken in that they can't get to the processing and fix things before you get that final notice of deficiency, your 90-day letter, and you may have to petition to the tax court. So here is the CP2000, the Secure Portal, brand new, apparently to me. John and I were talking prior to this. John knew about a pilot program from a few years ago where they talked about doing this. But for me, this was eye-opening. I received a copy of my client's 2018 CP2000 in April, and this was an interesting one. She and I have never met. She's the girlfriend of a boyfriend kind of thing, and I do the boyfriend's taxes. So she was in school. She'd been taking the American Opportunity Credit for years. She sent me her transcripts from the school, and I saw payments in 2018. I thought, oh, okay. And in the process, never got a 1098-T from her. Well, it turns out she graduated at 18 and never paid any tuition she paid tuition in 18, which I took to be 18 expense. It was for 17. So she wasn't entitled to the American Opportunity Credit. But when I looked at the CP2000, the response mentioned there is this opportunity for an IRS TDC invitation. TDC wasn't spelled out or defined. Basically, taxpayer digital communications. And as an aside, on June 4th, I got an email from one of my NAEA email packages, and it said, oh, by the way, the IRS has got this entire package that they're talking about sharpening taxpayer digital communication. So I want you to either Google that or go to that site. If you read about it, this new wonderful system is going to do everything in the world, including brighten your smile. But if you read through the fine print, what it's suggesting is the IRS would like to have a relationship with the taxpayer, and it kind of looks like they're leaving the tax professional out of the loop, which I'm not real happy about because taxpayers don't know the script. We do. Many of my clients, when they say, can I call the IRS or are you going to call them? And I said, you're welcome to call the IRS and results will vary. If I call the IRS, I'm going to have a much better time because I know the script. And people that want to come with me on audits, I say, not a problem, but that may be the most expensive entertainment you have for this year if you come into an audit with me. I'd rather you didn't. So here is hidden in the fine print. I did a screenshot. It said power of attorney. We sent a copy of this to your representative. Happened to have an 8821 on the gal. TDC invitation. You can now reply to this notice by registering for the IRS Secure Messaging at irs.gov Connect. You'll be able to upload your response documents via the Secure Portal, which is really wonderful. It turns out you'll see a little bit later, it's still kind of beta-ish because I got to a certain point and it hung. So let's walk through some of the other screenshots. Basically, here's where you go to irs.gov/connect and consider this a preview since when I went through this, got to a certain point, nothing happened. And so I'm not sure what's going to happen there. So what they say is access secure messaging. When you hit that, who can use secure messaging? You can't read the fine print on the screenshot, but it says individuals or their authorized representatives invited by the IRS will be able to use secure messaging. So it's invitation only right now. And then they tell you a little bit about how secure messaging works. It's web-based email services like Gmail, but you can actually send correspondence back and forth to the IRS and upload documents and so on. If you've been doing e-services in 2013, this sounds very, very much like a service that was discontinued called EAR, Electronic Account Resolution, which was wonderful. Back then with EAR, you could actually send secure emails to the IRS and you'd be communicating with the same agent as you went through what you were doing. And it was really quite an effective way to fix things in a very easy fashion. The IRS discontinued that in 2013, and the excuse they gave is, oh, by the way, nobody was using it. Way back in 2013, if you were doing e-services back then, we could actually create and upload a 2848 or an 8821 online and actually have immediate access to transcripts. So really, really powerful tools. You get all kinds of answers as to why they discontinued it. Probably the correct one is we didn't feel like moving into a new platform, and so we'll just tell people nobody was using it. That's the story that I like the best. Whatever it is, it went away. So notice secure messaging will save all your messages as a digital record. You'll be notified when you have a secure message waiting for you by a notification email or an SMS text message. Sounds like it's going to be a pretty cool deal. But notice there is a catch-22. Tax representatives. If you're a representative for a taxpayer who's been invited to use secure messaging, you may also use it as long as we have an approved authorization form, 2848 or 8821 tax information authorization on file. To access secure messaging, click on the link above. Well, let's assume that your client brings this to you. You don't have an 8821 on them. Okay, you'll file an 8821 or 2848. It may be 3 weeks before you have authorization. Kind of a bug in the system, in my opinion. You should be able to upload it through this package right here, but they didn't make that provision yet. But remember, this is beta. So to begin secure messaging, access secure messaging, log into your e-services account. And then, are you registering on secure messaging for yourself or an authorized representative? I'm an authorized representative. How was your client invited? CP 2000. And there are other ways here. My client's under audit. My client is under audit and was asked by an in-person interview or over the phone, or the appeals employee from the Independent Office of Appeals. So different ways. And they actually give you a summary of your questions as you're going through this. Here's what happened if your authorization is not on file. I went through this and said, okay, let's pretend my authorization is not on file. Basically, it says, based on your responses, does not appear you're eligible to participate. In order to participate, your authorization must be processed prior to signing up. Please allow at least 2 weeks before resubmitting a request. Well, I wish it were only 2 weeks. It's getting there, but it's not now. So that's what happens if you're not on file. Here's what happens if you're on file. This is a screenshot that says, have you already submitted a Form 2848 power of attorney or an 8821? Yes. And so there you go there. And then they have another question. Which IRS office did the CP 2000 or 2501 come from? Please look at the top of the notice to determine the location. Well, Austin is the only choice that works. If you say other, they say, oh, sorry, you can't participate in this program, and they will log you out. So Austin right now is the only one. As I say, I do a lot of CP 2000s. In a moment of rash thought, I told all of the fellowship people at the CDC, if you get a CP 2000, I will be happy to fix them at no charge. These are kids in their late 20s that have never filed a tax return. They will actually use TurboTax. And so I see a lot of CP 2000. So in the past 4 years, I have gotten very good at CP2000s. And my commentary on that, I would never try to answer a CP2000 without pulling the transcripts, because if you read through CP2000s, they absolutely do not make any sense when you compare them to the tax return. It's only when you look at wage and income, the tax return, you kind of see what they're hinting at, so you can answer it correctly. So if your authorization is on file, the system requires your taxpayer's first and last name, social, and your CAF number. And it says success. Thank you for signing up for secure messaging. You have successfully signed up. In a few moments, you will receive a welcome message that will be able to respond to that message. Well, when I got to that point, the system stopped. So it hung at that point. So we see how it's supposed to work. I have really positive feelings that this is going to help fix the CP2000 backlog, because today the system is broken and we see a lot of notices of deficiency because people can't fix CP2000s. So here's my expectations on this. I can upload PDF responses and interact with AUR personnel and fix the CP2000, or at least address it. So I've got a few more slides after this, but I thought I would stop here to see, John, are you seeing any questions?
I have a whole bunch of questions for you, Bill, and a couple of comments that I'll read. So the first one is, why do this upload of the powers of attorney, the disclosure authorizations, if you're not seeing a faster response time? I thought you are seeing a faster response time, Bill.
I am not. I'm seeing the same response time, but I have a confirmation that the IRS got it. If I fax at 3 in the morning, they could be printing out blank pages and I can't confirm they got it. They didn't get it. So that's why, the confirmation.
There are reports on the Tax Help Software group, and I know you know that's a bunch of fly-by-nighters, that Facebook group. There are reports that they are getting it done half the time, 8 to 12 days. So, you know, we are hearing that it gets done faster.
Good.
Someone asked, well, do you think a third-party authorization will allow them to use that portal to respond to a notice?
You're talking 8821 now? Is that
no, I think she means the third-party authorization on the tax return.
Well, from everything I see, no.
Right.
It said 2848 or 8821. It did not say third party.
Well, it's a CP2000 also approaches representation work too, so you'd probably want that 2848 anyway.
Yep.
Okay, so there were a couple of unanswered questions here. When talking to practitioner priority service, you need to fax a 2848. Will they take a 2848 via an online fax service?
Yes, if you tell them you're not using an online fax service.
And if you're not using Ring Central like we do, which takes 15 minutes, Nicole tells me regularly now.
Turns out the one I got the other night that was a JPEG, it was 1 meg as a JPEG. I thought, oh, well, I'll just print it out as a PDF. It turns out it had a background. The PDF was 2 meg. And so 2 nights ago, I uploaded the PDF. It absolutely took 16 minutes to fax a 2 meg file. Last night, I uploaded the same thing as a JPEG, and it took half the time. But
I think part of the problem is when someone signs it and sends you a PDF or a JPEG, it is a substantially larger file because it sees it as a graphic file than if you had the thing printed out, signed, and faxed it. Just my opinion. If it picks up the white, it's different than if it thinks the whole thing is one big block.
Yeah, and in fact, when I get a JPEG, it does have a background that's kind of grayish, and so that's why it's such a huge file. It's not white.
Bill, when you use the term remote for signature, does that mean not signing in front of the preparer, or does it mean a digital signature?
Well, it means a remote electronic signature. A lot of the times I will deal with elderly people who are not good at technology. I will create an 8821. I will mail it to them. They will then get it in the mail, sign it, date it, and I have a return envelope. They return it to me. So in fact, it was signed remotely, but not electronically.
Can I say something unpopular, Bill, that I hope you agree with?
Sure.
Since 2014, what has the e-file handbook said we're supposed to do when we engage with a person for the first time?
Verify their identity.
With a government ID.
Yeah, I was going to say, help me out on that.
Yeah, no, with a government ID, yeah. So the e-file handbook has said that for the last 7 years, that any of these people, if they're brand new to you, even if your state doesn't require a driver's license with the tax return, even if it's a rep case, you're supposed to verify with a government ID they are who they say they are. I don't think a lot of us do that consistently.
I have tried with Zoom, and I get the results may vary, but most of them say I don't do that.
You know, I rented a U-Haul when we moved to the office, and I picked it up. I used the remote key in the phone to get the U-Haul truck. I had to connect to this thing, and somebody who was up at 6 in the morning somewhere first had me take a picture of myself, then hold up my ID next to my face, and they decided if I was me and I could have that truck. And then they released the key. Very strange, but this is the future.
Interesting. I was setting up an account last night on Coinbase. Not that I want to buy or sell cryptocurrency, but you need an account if you're even going to think about it. And so they have a very strenuous requirement. They said basically, give us a picture of the front and back of your driver's license, and then take a selfie. And so I did this on my high resolution digital camera and was not able to get through their protocol. And so I found that interesting. I scanned my driver's license and it came through very good, sent that up, and then we did the selfie with the webcam. And they said, basically, there's not enough detail. We're not going to approve you. Try again later. So
tangentially related to today's seminar, a week from today, the IRS is doing their webinar to show the new Tax Pro portal. You know, the IRS is like a science fiction show. They have so many portals these days. But the Tax Pro portal is going to allow, essentially, my client, me to prepare a disclosure authorization, send it to the client's IRS portal. The client will log in and say, oh, yeah, I do want John or Bill to help me, and approve it. And you will have instant upload to CAP. That's different from this portal. So, Bill, we were thinking about this the other day. Do you think we should be encouraging all of our clients to try and set up portals and authenticate themselves now for the future?
I certainly do, just because I am trying to get them to register for an IP PIN so that they're locking their tax return. So if they're of an age where I think they have a shot, I ask them to try to establish an IRS account so they can pull their own transcripts. I'll still monitor them because they don't know how to read them and they don't have the discipline to go in there once a week, but I urge them to do so.
Well, I'm just thinking as a preemptive protection. I don't know what the word I want here is, but you know, for the client that might get a CP2000 or has a higher likelihood of a CP2000, good Lord, why either I've got to get a power of attorney from you on a regular basis every year, update it, send it in, for which I need to get paid, or have your account set up so that if we do need a power of attorney, we can quickly get it set up electronically. Just thinking out loud.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to all say, can you set it up for me? And the answer is no, of course. Trying to see if there are any other questions. We don't know what the process is for the IRS to invite us, we decided, right?
That's correct.
Right, to use that.
And I haven't been back to that portal, so you know, later today I thought I'd take another shot at it. This is one of those CP2000s that's correct. Preparer made an error. And so, you know, what my response is, okay, we have to sign off on it. If you agree and don't sign, the CP2000 never closes. You'll get a notice of deficiency until they get that signed agreement.
So a couple quick questions. So Charles in Massachusetts, longtime listener, first-time poster. To repeat back to you, only CP2000 notices from Austin would include an invite?
That's what this one said. Yep, only Austin.
So Nick in Staten Island, once you're invited to secure messaging, it's very good. Can you use it for all clients or only the client you were invited for?
I am speculating it's only for the client you were invited for that particular purpose. That's speculation on my part. I hope it's a broader discussion, but I don't know yet.
There are a couple of comments about the ability for me to delegate a person in my office to upload the powers of attorney. And there's varying things back and forth in the chat. Do you have any comment on that?
That will work for 8821s is what I understand, but not 2848s. So people that, as a firm, upload 8821s, anyone that is an authorized user in your office should be able to access transcripts. That's how I understand it works.
So Leon, who I think is here in New York with us, Bill, some of my clients have a problem registering with the IRS. If they do not have a credit card or another loan, is there a way around this limitation? Now, before you answer, that's why I'm saying we should tell people to go do it now. We know who can and who can't sign up that way, but there is no way around that, right, Bill? They have to be able to authenticate.
It turns out part of what I sent you probably a month ago when we were talking about this, the IRS has gone to a third-party program to improve authentication percentages.
Right.
Today, under the existing system, it's about a 40% pass rate, which is bad. And so they've gone to a third party, and we'll see what the statistic is. We hope it's better.
So, Bill, you're saying of every 10 people who go to the IRS website right now to try and set up their own account, either to get their own transcripts or to get the $31 installment agreement fee, you're saying only 4 of every 10 are actually able to complete the authentication process for whatever reason.
That is correct. That is
so
correct.
Assuming that some of them have technology issues, that probably means less than 4 in 10 are authenticating.
Right.
Wow.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
And it's abysmal. We all know that as enrolled agents, we can go online and set up an installment agreement, right? I have yet to be able to do my first online installment agreement as a power of attorney. And when I've called collections, they said, you're not authorized. And I say, but it says here I am. And the answer is, we don't care.
Bill, I've had the same problem. I've had mixed results getting that $31 agreement. Mark claims they do it all the time. You know, and you're not supposed to pretend you're the client, right? You're supposed to be able to do it yourself. Yeah, I think I did it once. And I feel bad if it's $205 to have the IRS set it up online for people, you know, over the phone.
Yep.
There was one more here, and then I know you had a couple of things you wanted to go over. Has the IRS said anything about accepting international addresses for the new client preparer portal? Online systems are not very accepting of taxpayers who live overseas.
I only know what I read, and that's a true statement, because bad people live overseas, apparently. The bad actors, some of them live overseas.
Well, 8 million people live outside the United. First of all, the State Department doesn't even know. We've had this debate for purposes of foreign bank accounts, right? The State Department thinks 8 million Americans live overseas. They have no clue. Well, if they get 160 million tax returns, which is the number, that means there's about 2% of the U.S. population lives outside the U.S., so it's probably not a priority. If you think about it, that's why for almost everything international, you call Philadelphia. Philadelphia is off the main IRS phone system. They have all sorts of their own rules out there. No ACS, no PPA. You have to call there. So, Sarah, I'm going to say probably not a priority. You know,
I'll agree.
Okay, Bill, there's one more. Let's see what's in the chat, and then I'm going to let you move on.
Okay.
Oh, that's all Nicole helping people. Let's go on then, Bill. What else did you have for people?
Just wanted to share a little of my thoughts. Here is my best practices with disclosure authorization. If I'm going to do somebody's tax return, I do an 8821 on everybody on the return, taxpayer, the spouse, and the dependents. That way, why dependents? I can see if someone has stolen the kid, if they're young, and as they become teenagers, they get part-time jobs, they get a W-2, and they go on their phone and they file their own tax return and say they're not a dependent. If I've got an 8821, I can see that and say, oh, little Johnny, 14 years old, he was kind of headstrong. He wasn't going to be anybody's dependent. So we have to amend his return before we can file mom and dad's so that they get the correct benefit for the child tax credit and EIC and so on. So that's why I do all of them. And I don't know about you, but the number one question I had this year that I was asking my clients, how much were your stimulus payments? And got a lot of different answers, some of which were correct.
Hey, Bill, refresh everyone's memory. If you sign a power of attorney today, up until what year can I put on the power of attorney I signed today?
3 years into the future from this year's date. So we're in 2021. You can put 2021 plus 3, 2024.
The 2024 tax year. So that means, God, 2025, when I'm doing tax returns, I'll have all that right data in there, won't I? Or access to it.
Well, you'll have wage and income up through 2024. And, depending upon, we're going to look at the next screen, John. Let's just take a shot at that. Let's see.
Well, Bill, I knew the answer. I just wanted everybody at home to know the answer.
Okay. Because of my 8821, I actually could look at their 2020 transcripts and their 2021 transcripts and see what their EIP 1 and 2 was. This happens to be a struggling single parent with one dependent. She's waiting for that child tax credit thing to hit so she can buy a car. She's been taking public transportation all of this year and is tired of walking. But she's gotten her EIP 1, the 1700, which was $1,200 for her, $500 for her 14-year-old. The EIP 2 was $1,200 for her, and the EIP 3 was 14 and 14, $2,800. So sitting all right there in the transcripts. This happens to be a printout from Tax Help Software. As they list the transcripts, makes it a little prettier to read, but that's what it looks like. And so let's talk about the future. Okay, this was my trivia question. You've got a Form 2848 Power of Attorney. When does your authorization expire? The IRM says 7 years from the signature date. Think about it. I pulled my CAF 77, which is that report that you can request from the IRS under FOIA. They'll give you a listing of all the people you have under authorization. And guess what? I had 10 years of authorizations on all my people. So although the IRM says 7 years from the signature date, the IRS is acknowledging that some of my authorizations that are verging on 10 years still are active. I can pull information from them. So,
Bill, I'm going to tell you. So I use the same software Bill does, Tax Help Software. And I have to tell you, it pays for itself in the standpoint that, for a webinar for another day, is seeing that you have IRS audits or CP 2000s coming up to 6 months in advance. But we also are able, I hate Alexa. So we are also able, though, to amend. We see a CP 2000 coming. We amend the return. You save the 20% penalty. And in New York, submit a voluntary disclosure and submit the amended returns. No penalties. We charge for all of that. You get paid for it. I have right now this, we charge typically for transcript monitoring, but I'm with Bill. I almost want to have people do it for free. We saw the value this year. Half our clients have monitored transcripts. I didn't have to look up or guess what the EIP 1 or the EIP 2 was. We already had it on file. So.
It endeavors to make your clients never want to abandon you because you're providing so much value. What I have done, I have another entire presentation, the 59 other activities you can do with transcripts. Let me just briefly read that to you so that it's a thought starter. But the primary one, you've done taxes for a client for a few years and he doesn't come back. And you wonder what happened. Did he die? Did he go to another preparer? Did he do TurboTax? If you pull his tax return transcript for the current year, you can figure out if he went to another preparer, you'll see an EIN and a P10. Or if he did it himself with TurboTax, you will see that there's no EIN or P10 and there is no third-party reference. So you can actually see where some people go. But the other thing is you can check for compliance. You know, did your client file a return for this year? Because they didn't come back to you and there's no extension showing. You can confirm balances if they owe money. You can, very importantly, you can confirm payments are being properly applied. Are they putting in their estimated tax payments, which, by the way, if you have the IRS personal Get Transcript account, you cannot see your estimated payments for the current year. We can see them on the transcript. We can find lost retirement accounts. You just look at all the 5498s for the current year, and if you see one that has a really goofy address and you go back in time, you'll see that they moved and they never updated that particular T. Rowe Price or Fidelity account. And you can ask them, you know, do you know about this IRA? Had one of them in 2013 was worth $13,000. Today it's worth $150,000, and I pointed it out to the taxpayer, a young person, about 5 years ago. So whatever they invested in did very well, but they didn't even know they had it. And it happens to be a Roth, so it's sitting there. For some of the CP2000s I've had, I've actually been able to develop basis in Roth accounts or in Roth conversions. If you are of a mind, you can check for required minimum distributions. CP2000s, I would not try to do a CP2000 without the transcripts. And as John said, we can monitor CP2000s with sophisticated software. It'll tell us who has a CP2000 flag 4 to 6 months before the IRS sends the letter. We can analyze it, we can fix it, we can offer a QAR, a qualifying amended return. If that hits the IRS before they send a letter, there's no 20% accuracy related penalty, and then you can fix the state as well. And you can also monitor for real IRS examinations, code 420. And I've seen that up to a year in advance. Had a guy who had a CP2000. We fixed it at tax court, and then it was marked that it was being audited, and 2 weeks later, they marked it as audit complete. So you can see a little bit of that, but what I told them is go pull as many bank records as you can while you can, because it's free. If we wait much longer, you may have to pay for those bank records. You can monitor installment agreement activity. You can actually see if your client has a pending agreement and why isn't it being closed? We've seen some pending agreements go for 5 years, and the clock is tolling during that time. You can also see if an installment agreement is accepted on the transcripts. You can monitor federal tax liens. You can do first-time abatement. As I say, I've found 150 grand of free money for my clients. Also, you can monitor the collection statute expiration date, the CSED. One of my clients just had $500,000 in tax liability fall off last month. So it does happen. He was in an interesting situation, advanced Alzheimer's, but he was smart enough before he went into the weeds. He put everything in his wife's name, never filed a tax return since '84, and the liability was from SFRs the IRS has done 2001 through 2006. And lastly, the transcripts also allow you to evaluate, is bankruptcy a possible course of action? You can kind of look at it, and if it is, we're not lawyers, we don't practice law. We can route them to a practicing good bankruptcy attorney and have them take it from there to see if the taxpayer may be a candidate. So I've got an entire presentation that goes through all of that in some detail, but it's an interesting opportunity to provide more service for your clients, and they'll never leave you. So with that, I am done. John?
Bill, there's a bunch of chat here in the group. You made the comment about the person who stops becoming a client. And so let's say that I do tax prep for you and you don't need to file next year, or you can do TurboTax because you're retired. You get just Social Security and some bank interest. The comments back and forth are, well, why would I have the authority to pull a transcript if they are, quote unquote, no longer my client? So do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, they've given you authorization with their signature to pull their transcripts for a certain number of years. They signed that, they authorize that, independent of whether you have a tax return relationship with them or not.
Now, in practice, if someone's my client and they don't come back this year, we email them. We've been emailing them, hey, where's your stuff? And we don't hear from them. Probably I will withdraw the power of attorney. And we have a standard email that we tell them that we're going to withdraw it because, you know, you get that letter from the IRS that says John Shealy has, you know, withdrawn his authority to represent you. And they all freak out when they get that letter. So we make sure they know it's coming. But, you know, I wouldn't want that. Liability is the wrong word, right? But I mean, I don't need you on my portal, my platform, wasting my time if you're no longer, quote unquote, my client. But you do have authority until they revoke or you withdraw.
That is correct. That is correct. And in fact, that's why I do so many 8821s. I don't have that pressure of representing them. I'm merely monitoring them. I don't think I have any real liability. Power of attorney, I'm standing in their shoes. 8821, I have a glass next to the door.
Well, you know, though, I've never used an 8821 in 30 years. And I'm not saying there's no reason to not use it, but we take the power of attorney. If we get a notice, we contact the client. If we don't hear back from the client in about 7 days, we can't reach them by phone, can't reach them by email. I simply withdraw the authority. I've had the IRS call us on powers of attorney that I thought were withdrawn. You ever have that, Bill? You withdraw the power of attorney and the IRS misses 1 or 2 years?
I have not, but...
So I 2013, 2015, I still have power of attorney on things we withdrew. Last month, I had someone in Brooklyn call me, a revenue agent. They couldn't get a hold of the taxpayer. I said, well, why are you calling me? He hasn't been my client in a few years. You have a power of attorney for this 1 year. And I'm just grasping at straws. So I did have a current email address, cell phone number. I called and got the two of them in touch. But I also said to her, can I fax you the withdrawal letter? Because I don't want her to have to do bypass paperwork to talk to the person, right? So I faxed her the withdrawal, also faxed it to CAF. But so I don't think there's that big a deal. It's inconvenient when you have to go do this because you have to do the right thing and withdraw and communicate with everyone. But it's no big deal.
Interesting commentary on 8821s. If you've been practicing for a while, you know 2848s because that's always been there. 8821s only allowed you to pull transcripts as of 2014. So it's a relatively recent development. And a lot of people I talk to do not know what an 8821 is. A little bit of history. It is not that old a product.
Interesting. I think that's it on questions, Bill, unless anybody has, I'm just looking real quick. People are asking about the recordings and the handouts. You'll get an email on both. The handouts are available right now. 2 columns over, you're all finding the chat. To the right of the chat, it says handouts, and you can download the handout. Bill, do you have anything else?
I do not. Thank you very much for this opportunity. We always appreciate having this interchange with you. You're fun to talk with.
Thank you, Bill. You know, the generosity of people like Bill and some of the other folks that come on with us allow me to give free CE, and you all earned 1 CE today too, right? You'll get a certificate in the email in about a week from us. You know, Bill's generosity allows us to be generous as well and give you the opportunities to hear from speakers like this on cutting edge stuff like this. So I hope you appreciate it. Bill, your email is It's
on the first page, John, if you whip way over there.
Well, you don't have to go forward, Bill. Look, we go around the clock. 51, 52 for 1. There you go.
Okay. So
1, 2, 3. Where's Bill? And there's Mr. Bill's email.
There we are.
So if you need Bill, he's happy to talk to you. And if you need us, John at Tax Practice Pro, or for things you need done importantly or urgently, Nicole at Tax Practice Pro. And we're happy to help you as well. All right, Bill. Always a pleasure, my man.
Absolutely. Thank you for this opportunity, John. We appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Take care. Hey, me.
Have you?
Have you done?